have a divorce from your wife to marry Judy, or?
According to the scriptures, in the time of the scriptures, divorce was for unchastity. Unchastity means to separate yourself from another person. I don't intend to separate myself from Rita spiritually or emotionally. I will always be available to her, so there's no need for divorce. With Judy, I'm obviously available to her in every way possible, and I've given my whole life, my career, and everything else for this relationship, so a $2.50 marriage license doesn't seem quite to weigh the same as having given up my whole life to buy the right for the relationship.
Within this context, then, do you still disagree with the church's attitude towards this relationship in that it is against their rules?
Well, it's some question.
What are your feelings about Will Schaefer?
I'm in complete agreement with the church's decision. I think kind of amazes me that he has the opinion that he does and really feels like that this is morally right, it seems like. And I can't understand how he could come to this particular position. I don't know, I don't really care whether he speaks on campus or not.
I don't think Will Schaefer has done anything that is indicative of any part of the church itself. I think it's completely his own actions. I think that there is no trend as far as others pertaining to this type of action. And I think that the church was completely within their justification to have done what they did.
What bothers me more than anything else is the fact that it seems that there appears at least to be an acceptance of a law involved here in terms of a man being able to have a license to do whatever he wants to do.
I'm afraid that it may be an indication of a trend. I have heard of other instances. I just hope that we don't see too much of it.
Well, it may not really be St. Patrick's Day, and you may not be in the mood quite yet, but the Ad League has stolen a slight jump on us. Tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day itself is your chance and my chance. Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News, on the move.
Well, actually, I don't know that James Bond ever used this type laser, the type you see in the movies of the so-called death ray guns. And if this were a death ray gun, I'd be dead because it's on and pointing right here. This is a gas laser used for many purposes, for true measurement But in the telephone world, we're exploring this thing for the possibility of carrying telephone signals somewhere around the year 2000. There'll be so many people talking and picture phones and television pictures moving across the nation that it's necessary that we have this type carrier. In other words, coming from this laser gun is a carrier of signals.
Well, how many calls will it handle?
Oh, at the present time, the best way to say it, to be able to prove it, is to say that on this little beam moving up here toward my coat, we could move all of the conversations going on in the world and all the television programs going on and all the newspaper programs. So who can say? I'd say roughly 100 million conversation pages.
Fantastic. And what year can we look for that?
I think that you'll still be around somewhere around the year 2000. I don't believe I can wait.
I'd hope there was no way to go but up, because we have been substantially hurt. I think that there will be a leveling off, and I certainly, for one, am going to work to that end to see that it doesn't go down.
Do you feel that other government contracts will take the place of defense contracts in these cases?
I think that there will be by those particular companies, that their management is working very hard to try to diversify into things other than defense.
Come in and told me to come in and put me out.
Did they identify themselves?
No, he didn't say nothing about what he just said. Come here and put me out. Walked on in and come just taking a step up.
Why did he say he was going to put you out of the house?
Well, he said he had a court order to put me out.
Did he show it to you?
He showed me a paper. He had it folded up, but he never did. I never did get my hands on it. He didn't read it and didn't ask me to read it and do nothing. He just kept it in his hand. And
did he say why he had a court order?
He claimed that people that own the house, when I was buying the house from, they could claim they give him authority to do this, you know.
Well, I would say that I'm in a position to see it quite graphically, because every time a ship docks in Houston, we're only 30 miles from Houston, and every time a ship docks, it causes a fluctuation of $1 to $3 a hundred in the slaughter cow market. And it certainly has had a tremendous impact. I don't say it's all bad. For instance, with a kick on high cholesterol and doing away with fat animals, why, the butcher has been able to trim the fat and mix that with the Argentine beef, the lean meat, grind it together and make a perfectly fine product of hamburger meat. So there is some good to be gained from this.
Well, we're quite concerned about that. First place, armed men walk in and simply say to people that, that we are officers and we've come to move you out, and then proceed to do just that, which we haven't been able. I've checked with the chief of police, I've checked with the sheriff's office, I've checked with the constable's office. Nobody in Tarrant County seems to know anything about it.
A fast is a symbolic thing, and it draws people's attention to the issue. So that's the reason we're getting involved in the fast, is that we want people to be aware of the issue. And secondly, we are getting involved to help inform people of the hunger, the extent of the hunger, where the hunger is, and just as importantly, what can be done by our city. And things can be done. I mean, we're pretty optimistic about that and pretty confident that the city council will do something to help in the hunger situation.
Recommendations on the future of Tarrant County District Attorney Frank Coffey will be debated long and hard tomorrow by the people behind this door, the members of the Tarrant County Crime Commission. An executive session has been called to discuss what action should be taken by the Commission concerning certain complaints against Mr. Coffey's performance of duties. General Counsel for the Commission, Edwin T. Phillips, Jr., told me that circumstances leading up to this action began sometime last summer.
Sometime late last year, probably as early as last summer, the Crime Commission began to receive reports that the Office of the District Attorney was not being administered with full efficiency. Because of Mr. Coffey's excellent record, we were not too concerned initially about these reports. However, in the latter part of 1970, and particularly for the first few months in 1971, the Crime Commission was informed by many sources that Mr. Coffey was not in full attendance at his desk, that he was not directing his staff, and that the morale and efficiency of his office was suffering as a result.
Mr. Phillips also said that when the call for the Executive Committee meeting was made, the Commission was unaware that Mr. Coffey was hospitalized outside of the city, but that under the circumstances it would have made no difference. The recommendations coming from the meeting tomorrow will be announced early Thursday morning. While the Crime Commission has no actual authority to do anything but recommend, it could put pressure for action on county officials. Coffey has indicated that he intends to return to Tarrant County soon to answer the Commission charges and make a public statement. He may choose to make that statement tomorrow. Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
Whether we have the right man or not, we just have a suspect. Can you describe?
What more could a man ask for on this 17th day of March, St. Patrick's Day, than to be surrounded by beautiful Irish colleens? There are 30 beautiful Irish colleens, nurses, working at Harris Hospital in Fort Worth. We'd like to talk with 3 of them today. May I introduce Rona Loftus, who is from the western part of Ireland. She's from County Mayo. Rona, what's it like in Ireland on this day of days?
Well, this is a public holiday, and people usually start their day by going to church, and after church there are parades, most of the towns.
What's it like in Dublin?
Oh, in Dublin there are parades in all the streets, and people just celebrate. Have quite a good time. Oh, Lord.
Also from the west part of Ireland is Maureen O'Gara, and she's from County Roscommon. Maureen, are you homesick today?
Yes, I definitely feel a bit homesick today, and seeing that it is my first St. Patrick's Day that I've spent overseas, I think that accounts for it. And I think every Irish person who's away from Ireland on St. Patrick's Day feels a little bit homesick.
From the southern part of Ireland is a young lady by the name of Mairead Daly, and Mairead's from County Limerick. Mairead, you have a very special greeting for everybody in America from Ireland.
Well, in a few words, Lorna Pósric fe Hames fe Voshigut agus Benach de Galer.
That's their way of saying St. Patrick's blessings to you on this day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and sure, and this is Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move in Fort Worth.
I would say about 50% of the people that we talk to. I think many people have a misinterpretation of poverty. I think people have a misinterpretation of what a community action agency is. And they have a misinterpretation of the difference between a community action agency and a traditional welfare system. And I try to take as many opportunities to speak to people as I possibly can.
It's been nearly 5 weeks since I stood in front of this Buddy's supermarket on East Abrams in Arlington and wondered aloud, what is it that makes a man kill? For it was here on February 12th that Samuel Krager was shot to death as he stood outside an Arlington supermarket during an armed robbery. The bandit had held up the cashier's cage, had rushed outside after having shot a guard at that cage, and killed Samuel Krager. He then got into a car around at the side of the store, the car driven by a female accomplice. They fled. Today, Arlington detectives went to Fort Smith, Arkansas, to pick up Buster Cantrell and his wife, Patty. They brought them back to Arlington this afternoon. They'll be charged and tried for the murder of Samuel Krager and for the February 12th armed robbery of Buddy's supermarket in Arlington. We may never know why that killing was done. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Arlington.
How would you feel if you had to ask for money all the time and feel somehow that it wasn't yours, it was your husband's, and you feel guilty about spending it? Women either feel very guilty about spending it and deprive themselves, or the system so degrades them that they become angry at their husbands and overspend in order to punish their husbands. But we all need, work that's our own and a sense of dignity. Us too. Would you like to be a wife?
I don't know. I've never tried it, but I don't really think I could qualify.
Well, I don't think you're avoiding the issue, because I think the point is that marriage, as we think of it classically, is meant for a person and a half. And the half is the woman. It should be an institution for two full adult human beings who are equal and who support each other.
But wouldn't dividing the money and dividing everything else within the family divide the family rather than create this situation you're describing?
No. Next question.
Can't say.
No, it just because it's so bad the way it is now. You know that in countries where it's there is an acceptance of the idea that the woman's work in the home is socially valuable work. You know, it's much better.
But a mutual arrangement within the family, could that not be more rewarding than to have to divide pennies and dollars?
Not for a woman who has to ask for it. See, what to you seems a mutual arrangement, to me, since I would be in the position, means that I have to ask you for it. You
well,
see,
a
and it
mutual
also
arrangement to me means that it's there for everyone within the family.
But you're earning it, and we still have to ask you for it. It's still your money. You get the paycheck, has your name on it. You see,
but I think that my wife
system,
has done at least as much as I have to earn that money.
All right. Well, you may be a good master. You see, I mean, if you have a system of slavery, if the master is a good master, it's almost unnoticeable. But when it gets
would it be better not to get married at all?
Well, the way the laws are, yeah. Because the laws penalize you as well as me. I mean, I lose all my civil rights when I get married.
challenge this question, and I take issue with it because, in my opinion, certainly the Mexican-American community has not in its entirety been terrorized. I think the thing that we must keep in mind is the fact that 3 deputy sheriffs were assassinated. One was brutally injured, and this is a thing we must keep in mind, and the police were responding to that situation in an effort to clear it up as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible in order that we could secure our best efforts in terms of criminal justice. And you don't hear too much talk now about the assassination of these 3 deputies, and you don't hear a clamor from a certain group or individuals to make sure that justice is served in their case. Rather, you're hearing a lot of talk about the case involving Mr. Rodriguez. It, too, is a criminal matter in the criminal justice system now, and that process should prevail rather than permitting a lot of people to make statements which in some cases are irresponsible, in my opinion.
This commission studied and came up. They had a finding that it would take $1 billion a year to do this, but that was too much to put in the first year till we got the facilities built and the people trained. They recommended that we put $360 million in it this first year, $600 million the next, $1 billion in 3 years, and then up till we found the cure. Now let me give you a little relative cost. In that 10 years, when we didn't put the $10 billion in for cancer, we went to the moon for $25 billion. We fought a fruitless war in Vietnam for $110 billion. $25 billion to go to the moon, all of which I supported for, $110 billion in South Vietnam, where 1/11 of that would have found the cause of cure of cancer, which has now reached epidemic proportions, causing the deaths of 1/3 of a million Americans each year, second killer among all diseases, and costing our people about $6 billion in monetary losses in addition to other things.
I think the dangers that people speak about have been well foreseen by all those involved in SST development. And I think the basic question that the American people have to answer is, can they afford to stay out of this area of advanced technology, which is at present occupied by both the Russians, my own country, and France. We think it's technologically necessary to proceed with SST development, and we're demonstrating that it can be done safely. I'm disturbed that there is so much scaremongering. For example, the latest news report that 3 scientists claim that skin cancer would be increased by the water vapor addition to the upper atmosphere, permitting increased solar radiation to penetrate, seems to me without foundation, and even they concede that they have no proof for this.
First of all, the major difference is that they are independent candidates. And this is very significant because, as no doubt many of you are aware, the CCA endorsements and the CCA candidates that they generate in many cases are purely rubber stamp seat occupiers. You don't hear from them from one election to another, and in between during their occupancy of the city council positions. And further, they are completely non-committal as far as being active in any kind of a campaign.
Yes, I built 2 new ones this winter. I just went in business about 2 years ago of building and handling auto racing equipment, and I built about 2 new ones, and of the cars in this area, I guess I'll have about 7 appearing at their local tracks this year.
Is the Jim McElreath design, can you compare it with the Zinger or any of the other, or the Bob Hope golf
No,
cars?
these custom cars at the show are quite a bit different than the old track racing cars that I build and compete with. But these show cars are really something that people have to see to appreciate.
You feel anybody who's not really interested in racing would enjoy themselves just in seeing the unusual cars that will be there?
Yes, it's very fantastic. When I was first show out, I appeared with them. Well, I was just busy looking at the cars more than take care of my business, I guess. Every chance I got, I wanted to go look, and it's just always something else to see right around the corner.
I have favored them for some time on a temporary basis. I know that they would be very difficult to administer. By the same token, I think it might be better to do that and go through that problem rather than face the continued inflation as I see it.
How do you define temporary?
Oh, 6 months maybe.